Logi on the beat, so it's a bang.
Alright, what's good internet? It's your boy Logan, aka LOGYBEATS, back at it again with another video. So this one I'm going to be giving you guys just kind of like some FL Studio tips that at least help me out. Hopefully, they help some other people out too. If they do, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. It's very appreciated. And yeah, let's get into it. So this first one here is one in the piano roll. So a lot of people, when they want to change the velocities on like a hi-hat pattern like this, I'll notice that they'll use the Alt-R, which is the randomizer preset, which is cool, but all of your velocities, they're just randomized. There's no real like pattern to them. So a good option instead of using this is actually to use Alt-Q. And so this one, the thing that's cool about it, yours may look a little different when you first open, but the thing that's really cool about it is actually this top part up here. And no one really, I don't know, I guess no one like notices it or fucks with it. But they have different patterns inside of this. So you can choose any one of these, and I mean, you can, feel free to like go through them and check them out and stuff. But the one that I like to use a lot is this, the Groovy 70s one. And when you change one of these, it's going to add like a pattern to the velocities. And so you can see down here on the bottom, instead of it just being totally random, it has like a rhythm to it. And so I use this on almost everything instead of using the randomizer. Like I'll use it on chord progressions, I'll use it on bass lines, especially on the hi-hats, obviously. And yeah, it's really, really fast to do. You just Alt-Q and then kind of adjust it, and it sounds good pretty much every time. So the next one is something similar. Instead of using the Alt-U key, instead of using the Alt-U, you use Alt-A, which is the Arpeggiator, and it's got the same thing built in. It has some different patterns and stuff. So when you change these, you can change the timing of them and everything too. But these can add, I don't know, some cool different bounces to your hi-hat patterns and stuff. And I'll just go through and kind of like randomly click ones. And then just experiment with the different patterns that it has. It can give you some pretty cool, like unique sounding stuff. So the next one that I have is actually an external program that you can use with FL Studio. I've seen this one mentioned by a few different people, but I don't think enough people use this personally. I use this all the time when I'm using like loops or samples if I don't know what the key of it is. And it's this program called Key Finder. So this is what it looks like right here. It's free software. I'll either put a link in the description, or you can just search it on Google. It's called Key Finder. They make it for Mac and Windows. And what this little thing does is basically you can load in like a song or a sample or a loop, pretty much anything you want, and it will tell you what the key of the sample is. So check this out. I got a sample already loaded in here. All you gotta do is drag this down to Key Finder. Just drag it straight from FL Studio too, which is convenient. Click Run Batch Analysis right here. Make the loud ass Windows noise. And so it's telling me that this is in F minor. right? Cool. So now if I take a 808, change my highlighting to F minor. The 808 should be in key with the sample now. Cool. So yeah, like I said, Key Finder, that's a super useful plugin. Or it's not really even a plugin, just like program. I use that thing like all the time. It's not right all the time, but I would say like 95% of the time it will be right. And so it's really useful if you don't know, like you're like me and you can't just like tell what key a sample is, and you don't want to take the time to sit there and mess with like the 808 or some instrument and try and find all the notes. That's just going to tell you exactly what it is. So the next one that I have is actually kind of an easier way to chop up samples and stuff. Let's say you've got a sample here, like this one, where the original tempo is not the same as the tempo that I have FL Studio set to, right? But I wanted to, chop the sample up and manipulate it more in a program like SliceX or Fruity Slicer or anything like that. So this is, for when you already have the sample looped and everything the way that you want it. But what you're going to do is record the sample in an audio track. So we're going to render it to a wave. I have this, right? The same sample, but when I go to load it into like a Fruity Slicer or SliceX, if I load up the one that I printed, it will fit into the tempo. So check this out. Let me actually load up the original one first. So you could see on here on the playlist, the sample is fit to the tempo, my original one. But when I load it into Fruity Slicer, it's not matched up with the tempo, right? Notice how it keeps on going. If I were to do the beat slicing, this is the way I like to chop these up. You could see here it doesn't line up with the tempo anymore. And I'm not sure why FL Studio does this, but it's just like a weird thing in the software, and it used to really annoy me when I was trying to cut up samples and stuff like that when I very first started making beats, until I kind of figured this workaround out. What you're going to do after you print it is just load it into here, and you'll see when I slice it if it's fit to the tempo now. And so this is cool if you're into sampling. It makes it a lot easier to like manipulate the samples and stuff and keep it in tempo with the beat. So you can, this is where you get creative. You can do kind of whatever you want with these. Cool. So another one I wanted to show real quick is just kind of like an easy way to navigate stuff. If you're like me and you got like a lot of different sound kits and stuff, sometimes you can kind of get like lost in the sauce with all the different packs and everything like that. and sometimes you want to like quickly go back to a kit or like change out one of the sounds and stuff like that. This little button right here will take you to whatever file on your in your packs that it came from. So if I click this, it's just going to go straight to the folder that this one was in. And then you can, go through your sounds, and you can do that with any sound that's loaded into the sampler thing. So I find this to be super handy. Also, another thing I don't really, see like a lot of people using. And then one more quick one too in the piano roll. If you ever get anything offset on any of these things down on the bottom here, whether it's the note pan, the velocity, the release, like any of these things, all you have to do is hold Alt and then click on the bottom part down here, and it will reset the note value for it. And this used to piss me off all the time until I found this out, and so it's pretty helpful. Cool. So the next one is that you can copy any mixer channel over to another one. And so let's say, for example, I have like an EQ and a reverb on this this hi-hat here. Cool, and I like how that sounds. Let's say, for example, I wanted to use these same mixer effects that I have on like another channel. All you do is right click and you go to file right here. You do save mixer track state, but you click and hold on it, and then you can drag it to whatever mixer you'd like, and it'll rename the mixer. Channel 2 is the only thing, but it's helpful when you've got like some effects like this and you want to transfer them over. Cool, so the next thing that I wanted to share is actually a plugin in the mixing plugin called Patcher. And this is actually a really useful plugin that not a lot of people like know how to use it or like what it's even for. It could be like a whole nother video in itself, like how to set up Patcher stuff. But the thing that's really cool in here is that they have a bunch of presets in here, and there's like a bunch of different useful stuff. I would definitely recommend just kind of like going through and seeing some of the different stuff. Like they have like a mid-side compression. I think that they have a mid-side EQ too. A bunch of other like cool shit. But one that I really like to use is the it's called Humanizer. Yeah, this one here. And so what this guy does is it just adds like pitch and volume variation to like a sample or loop. It's useful if you have like loops that sound kind of like flat or like artificial. It almost adds like a wobble effect to them, kind of like a plugin like RC20 or like Isotope Vinyl and that kind of thing. So that's kind of a lot on it, but so you can play with the different knobs and stuff on here, and the effect can go like pretty crazy with it. But this is a really useful one if you're into making like lo-fi or just want that kind of like that tape saturation sound. And there's a ton of other really useful presets and like effects and stuff inside of Patcher that I don't see a lot of people using. So if you're like just starting out, you don't really got like the money to drop on the expensive plugins like RC20 and stuff like that, you can still get pretty close to the sound, to be honest, with just the plugins in FL Studio if you know what you're doing. The last ones that I got here are actually just some tips for Edison. So let me load up this loop I got in here, and this is a sample I made the other day. So check this out. So one thing that used to always get me in Edison when I was trying to chop like a certain part of a sample, and you want to zoom in really close, is the way that it auto scrolls every time that you hit spacebar. It'll move away from wherever you're trying to cut the sample at, right? And if you've used Edison, you know it's pretty annoying. All you have to do to turn this off is click this little arrow right here. And this took me years to realize, but it just saves me like so much frustration. And then you can also scroll through a sample in Edison without having to listen back to the whole thing. This is another feature I did not know that you could do for like the longest time. And it kind of changed my life when I found out. You just use this scroll wheel thingy up here. And so you can fast forward and rewind through a sample. The last tip that I have is to save presets for like mixing, especially. This is gonna just like speed up your workflow like so much if you have stuff that you use like constantly. Save a preset for them. So for example, I have one saved in Fruity Parametric EQ. It is this guy right here. So it's got like really sharp high pass right here, and then it also has the angle of the EQs turned like all the way down. And so I use this when I'm basically on everything that I EQ. Is I just load it up just like this, and I use it to scroll through like on the EQ and then take out like frequencies that are harsh and stuff like that when I'm mixing. But yeah, the point is this is just saved as a preset. So I use this every time that I EQ, so I don't need to load up my EQ, you know, lower this, change it like this, and then go down here and move every single knob, you know, to the way that I would like it. Instead, all I have to do is load up the EQ. I know that I press the thingy twice, and then it's going to load up my preset. And this is what I use like every time that I EQ. So that just saves me a bunch of time doing it like that. Would very highly recommend it. I also have another one saved for gross beat too. I saved the halftime preset. So I know when I load up gross beat, if I want to put like a halftime on something, all I have to do is click the arrow and it's going to take me right to the half speed. I actually just loaded this on the wrong track. Like I mentioned earlier with the mixer presets, you can do the same thing with the individual sound as well. You just click the little down arrow here, click save preset, and then drag it to whichever one you want to do. To save your presets like this, all you need to do with any of the FL Studio native plugins at least is change the effect to however you want it. Then you click this arrow right here and you do save preset as, and it should already just load up in the folder and everything like that for it. But if not, any of the FL Studio plugins, they're going to be in this file path here. And this is one of those things like it seems kind of dumb, you know, but it's going to save you like so much time if there's mixing stuff that you use often. Yeah, I would highly recommend doing that. So this is pretty much going to wrap up the video. Sorry again for the quality. We're working on improving it, but hopefully these tips kind of help some of you guys out. If they do, drop a like, drop a comment, drop the subscribe. We appreciate it. Thank you, and peace out.